Hello and welcome to Thrive by ArbeitNexus. Today, we are really thrilled to have another special guest who's joining us. Our guest is someone who's a leading expert in the retail industry. Please welcome Mr. Jitendranath Patri, who's an industry veteran in the retail sector. Jitendranath Patri, or Jiten, as his colleagues and friends call him, is a business leader with over 25 years of experience in the retail management, marketing, CRM, and customer loyalty and technology. Till mid 2018, he was the head of marketing and customer loyalty for Central and Brand Factory, which is part of the Future Group, where he successfully led the marketing and customer engagement for the two retail formats. His fascination with tech and startups allowed him to partner with Zeno as a consulting partner with Zeno, a SaaS-based MarTech startup. He is working to redefine the CRM and the customer loyalty adoption for retail. In addition to this, he spends his time as a podcast host, building a community and adjunct faculty, and is open to working with other tech startups in their growth journey. Currently, Mr. Patri works with Danasagar University as a head of COPE, or the Center for Proficiency Enhancement. He also teaches marketing, retail marketing, and entrepreneurship at the university. He also hosts a podcast which is called Let's Talk Retail Podcast. The podcast features the thought leaders, change makers, visionaries, and innovators making an impact on the retail industry. With me today on this show, I also have Mr. Darshan Reddy, who is the CEO and founder of ArbeitNexus. At ArbeitNexus, we are all about connecting businesses with the right talent, and this podcast is part of our mission to share knowledge and empower the future of work. We are excited to dive into today's discussion. Darshan will take over from here with some engaging questions about today's topic. And today's topic that we're going to discuss is reimagining retail talent, innovation, and trends for the future workforce. Uh, Jiten sir, it's a pleasure hosting you on this session today, and thank you so much for giving your time. Darshan, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think Darshan and Rajan, if I may be allowed to address you as such, thank you for having me. I think just recently also I've just associated myself with another tech startup called Swirl, which is in the video engagement space. Yeah, and then hopefully, during our conversation, we'll kind of talk about what's happening from that perspective and how that is enabling a lot of advantages for retail. And it's pleasure meeting all of you, both of you.
Yeah. So thank you, Rajan. Welcome to the second podcast of ArbeitNexus, Jitendranath sir. We are happy to have
you. I think Jiten is fine. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So coming to the, as Rajan told, you have a very good experience in the retail industry. Can you give us an overview of your experience in the retail industry and what you have learned from your time with the Future Group?
Yeah, I think, thank you. Yeah, interesting question. Because I joined for me, I joined Future Group sometime, I think late 2007, early 2008, right? So 11 years I spent with them. For me, I came in as a customer and came to the other side to really, and that was an eye-opening experience for me. I first-hand experience on how retail actually works, right? This was the time, 2007, 2008 was the time when brick and mortar retail was kind of starting to peak. Around the same time, you had just the first signs of e-commerce coming in, right? Flipkart had launched, there was, I think Myntra had launched, and so on and so forth, right? So I think it was the kind of experience was phenomenal. You got to know how this industry actually works. What really makes it tick. How certain changes in customer behavior can create a lot of shifts in the in demand and supply of the merchandise and the goods, right? While the essence of retail always remains customer centricity, but the methods of delivering the experience, I think, have really changed over the last few years, right? And key takeaway from my time at the Future Group was really how do you, how important it is for one to be agile, both in the way you manage the business and in the way you manage the people, right? Which is retail is a people's business after all, right? And the ability to pivot quickly and innovate, I think, is very crucial in the dynamic market.
Okay. That's very nice. As you told, you went in as a customer. So how did you get to a position in which you are actually in the future group?
Oh, that is funny story. Yeah, I was working with a direct marketing firm called RMG Connect, and we were pitching for new business. And then I happened to meet the head of marketing at that time, or the gentleman who was looking after marketing at that time. We met uh, and realized that they're what they were doing was very different from what we were trying to pitch, and well, of course, it was all about customer engagement, but the kind of engagement that they were doing was very different, and it required a very different kind of a skill set and thought process, which we as the agency weren't ready at that time. Yeah. And during the conversation, I also realized that I knew his two younger brothers, one of them who had worked with me in my earlier stint in one of the agencies called Mudra, and and that's how we got talking and continued talking. And he said, "Hey, you know what? I cannot offer give you the business, but what I can do is I have this position open. Would you be keen to explore and see if it's a great fit?" And that's how I think it started. I said yes, and why not move from an agency side to a client side, and that's how I think the shift happened. I think it was basically serendipity that brought me there.
That's nice. That's nice. How have you seen a talent acquisition evolve in the retail sector over the years?
Yeah, okay, I think let me kind of try and simplify the answer to this question. Um, Brick and mortar retail is made up of two parts, right? One is what is called the back office, where
Mm.
all the business heads, all where we used to sit, the merchandisers, the marketing teams, the head of operations, the business heads, um, and so on and so forth, and the commercial team, finance team, and the CEO, right? And then there's what is called the front end, which is the stores, which is where your store manager, the people under the store manager, the department managers, depending on how large or small the store is, you have that many team members, right? So from a store perspective, at that time, it used to be very transactional. So if I want to hire somebody at the front end, the sales executive, it was a very transactional thing, right? You just needed some feet on the floor to kind of manage the section. Yeah, you needed somebody slightly better to manage the different departments or different categories. So you had department managers there. And I'm talking about a large store, like stores like Central and Brand Factory, or a lifestyle shopper stop, or a big bazaar, which had multiple categories within. And then the strategic part really came in when you started looking for a store manager, because you wanted somebody to control at least 150 people, manage a business of about 50, 100 crores that the store was doing. So that was one part of it. And then a very strategic part at the back office end, where you had all the business heads and the different teams sitting there, right? So I think from a talent perspective, I think both them, it was quite of a dissonance, because one side you're trying to hire very strategically, and the other side you're making a little more, making it a little more transactional. So I think that created a bit of an issue at that time. But I think over the years it has evolved, and if I just look back at my own 11 years of spending there, I think it evolved by the time, from 2007, 2008 till about 2018. So, and because I still am involved with retail, with the retail industry, uh, I now see that there's a lot more science and a lot more thought being put into the talent management and the talent acquisition.
Okay. As you said before you hire any person, during that point of time, what are the qualities that you used to see the person, like, or how you used to hire a person?
I'll tell you the first initial years, and I just look at the way I got hired, right? I think it was purely based on attitude.
Hmm.
There's no set, there was no, of course, certain functions required people with certain understanding, like merchandising, where somebody had to be who's involved in actually bringing the products into uh, into the business. You needed some amount of fashion knowledge, right? So merchandisers and visual merchandisers required the sense of fashion knowledge. So they were the little more specialists, if I would say. But I think the other part, you just need people with the right kind of attitude, because retail is such a very intense business. No 2 days are the same. If it's a good day tomorrow, you don't know how tomorrow is going to. If it's a good day today, you don't know how tomorrow is going to be, right? So you need people who could manage that kind of dynamics. You need people with the right kind of attitude to manage, because it's a people business at the end of day, right? You have to manage customers, right? So I think it's all about attitudes, getting the people with the right kind of attitude, right kind of mentality, to join the team and becoming part of it. Of course, today now there's like I said, there's a lot more science to it. Want to know culture, fate, and so on and so forth. But those days when we were all growing, because I've really seen both Brand Factory and Central grow from 4 or 5 stores to about 40, 50 stores, right? And
Yeah.
really business, and the business actually not just doubling, but I think just growing 10x in those 10 years, right? So today I think there's a very different process that people involved.
And also, there is a very huge growth in the retail industry. When we look at retail industry, from there is a 13.5 CAGR every annum. It's growing very rapidly, and there is a need of staff throughout. And the point over here is, there is for a common individual, if he wants to work in a retail store or in a retail industry anywhere, it's very hard to it's very hard for that individual to find that job opportunity. So how do you want that person to go and, like, where do you want that person to go and consult?
Yeah, I think today retail is becoming. I would split today in the current scenario. I would split retail in 4 parts, right? One is the brick and mortar retail. Then there is e-commerce or direct to commerce. Then you have this new kid on the block, which is called quick commerce, which I think kind of combines both a bit of e-commerce and physical retail. And then, of course, today you have omni-channel retail, the brands like Lenskart, which has got very different dynamics. I think the opportunities today in retail are immense. I think it's just a matter of where do I want to fit in. Now, if you want it from brick and mortar perspective, the actual action happens on the floor, right? When the customer walks into the store is when the entire thing starts, when the sale really starts, right? So do I want to be part of the operations team and be on the floor? A lot of people say, hey, no, I don't want to be part of operations. I want to be part of the back office. Then who do I want to, which department do I want to work with? Am I good at marketing? Today, with a lot of focus on customer and customer engagement and customer retention, CRM, customer relationship management is becoming a big thing, right? Do I have the specialized skills to become a visual merchandiser, or do I have enough knowledge to become a merchandiser or a category expert, and so on and so forth. Now, there are certain functions which are common for all 4, right? But I think today the spectrum is quite wide. So I can decide to choose, or I may want to, I'm a little more digital savvy, so I would want to work, say, with a brand that's more digital first. So e-commerce could be my cup of tea there, right? Or even quick commerce. I think the good thing about quick commerce, it kind of marries the best of e-commerce and the best of a physical store by ensuring that there are multiple dark stores around. And the connect really is there. Instead of a customer going to the store and picking it up, you have a delivery guy who's picking up the stuff and delivering it to the customer, in a stipulated time, right? So I think that really the scope and the opportunities are endless today in retail. I think it's just a matter of people. I think a lot of freshers who I talk to, they're very confused about what retail is. But when you talk to them and when you actually open it out and then tell them, hey, this is what retail is, and then they realize that there's a lot of scope. Yeah, sure, you can start off at the store as a department manager, possibly in a large store, but work yourself way up. After 2 years, you don't know how things go. Or you could, if you're lucky, you could join as an intern in one of the e-commerce companies. And I know somebody who's done that and done that successfully, and then now was hired full time. And she was hired full time, in this e-commerce company, right? In this brand that's doing pretty well for itself. So I think it's just a matter of having the right kind of attitude and the right kind of information about what really retail jobs, offer, right? And what retail offers.
What can I expect? Like, what is a growth rate? Me getting into a retail industry,
Yeah.
into any company. So, as an associate, as a customer sales associate, or any such manager or anything, what is a growth rate that I can expect in the retail, keeping in mind that today's scenario?
Yeah. Uh, I think it all depends on the kind of business, on the kind of growth the brand or company itself does. If the brand is doing well and it's growing at about 8-10% a year, I think you'll automatically grow. Uh, one can be a sales associate for a couple of years. And today, I think, unlike earlier, today brands are focusing on people down the line. People, because the fact that there's this huge dearth of talent, uh, and with less and less people joining retail, the HR teams are now focusing on even people right down the line and training them, giving them, equipping them with skills, giving them softer benefits, making them feel that they're part of a larger, entity, larger
Mhm.
objective, and so on and so forth. So I think the growth rate is fine, but at the end of the day, it's personal, right? It's the kind of effort that I put in, what kind of learning, what kind of initiative do I take, how much do I want to, step in and then contribute. So at the end of the day, I think it's a bit of both, but it obviously also depends on how the overall, the kind of performance the brand also has is the overall brand performance. Uh,
Okay.
also really matters. Right?
So we see a lot of small scale businesses and the large scale businesses in the retail industry. How can smaller retail businesses compete with larger organizations when it comes to hiring top talent?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Well, from a business perspective, I know I'm not one to uh, really harp on saying, hey, smaller guys should compete with larger guys. But yeah, from a talent perspective, it is a challenge because as at whatever level, I would prefer, if you ask me today, which retail business would you like to join, would like to be part of, maybe I may choose a landmark group or a shopper stop or one of the larger groups because I think there's a lot of stability. But I think that's that's really changing now, right? Today there are e-commerce companies, and a lot of direct to commerce brands who are growing pretty quickly. Yeah. And they also offer and they offer quick growth if you're
Hmm.
joining at the right time. Quick commerce is doing well. And I think we are all reading the way quick commerce is growing. Today, brands are moving into what is called an omni-channel. And that omni-channel perspective or omni-channel effort also is paying dividends, right? So, given the dearth of talent, given the challenges, I think you know it's basically what the person really wants to achieve at the end of the day.
And as we see, sir, there's a huge growth in the e-commerce side. There's a lot of companies like Zepto, Blinkit, Instamart, all these companies looking at, in the e-commerce. Do you think that there is a threat to the small scale retail industry, the small scale and the large scale businesses?
I don't think so. I think the smaller brands, yeah, okay. Quick commerce will always kind of, okay, let me share this. Uh, for the first ever time, you know, when iPhone 16 was launched, in addition to their regular channels, they also launched it through quick commerce, right? So, Zepto and
Hmm.
Instamart, Blinkit, and even
Yeah.
BB now offered it, right? The guys who felt threatened were not the small guys. The brand that felt threatened with all of this was Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of impact these new age businesses have. So I think from a small scale, small brand, okay, this is just one example, but from a small brand perspective, yeah, while retaining talent and getting talent will be difficult, but I think from a people perspective or from a talent perspective, I think what they also should realize is these small brands have the capability to grow very quickly and fast, which means that your growth also will be, accelerated at this proportionately. Right? And given the kind of dynamics today, given the way customers shop, there's no hard and fast rule that a customer will only go to a larger brand today. The customer may go to a smaller brand because it kind of connects with the brand. Today, it's not just about it's just not about positioning, but it's also about emotional connect that these brands can form with customers. So I think today, irrespective of the brand size of the brand, I think it's a pretty open field out there.
Okay. As you know, also we spoke about hiring talent, all this thing. We also see that in this industry there's a lot of people keep jumping from different companies. They'll always be rotating. How hard it is to for a company in retail to sustain a talent for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I think employee retention is a big challenge, and it depends on where, right? What is called the front end staff, the sales guys who work in the stores, they will jump. Somebody offers them 1,000 rupees more a month, they will jump because for them it really doesn't matter, right? But even today at the back office, you have you have those challenges. The attrition may not be as high, but you have challenges going on. Given that, I think today HR is there's HR is I think really working double time. And I was lucky enough to speak to the head of HR for Metro Brands recently, and then she was telling me how they're really planning it out, how they're doing a lot of things internally to kind of ensure that talent is retained. Right, it's easier to retain talent at the back office, not so much in the front end. And maybe this is from a brick and mortar perspective, but from an e-commerce perspective, yeah, talent can jump because there's suddenly another brand will come up with possibly great funding who will offer, 15-20% more for the same position, and then you'll have people jumping. Right? So yeah, I think HR I think today HR role is becoming that much more complex. And
very crucial for a company.
Yeah, very obviously very crucial. Unlike earlier when we used to always look at HR and say, oh, this is the guy, the hire and fire guys have come, right? But today I think it's becoming a lot more strategic. It's becoming a lot more challenging for them with the kind of opportunities available for for experienced retail people. I think retention is a huge task that they have to work on.
Okay. And also, sir, can you please discuss the impact of the gig economy on the retail workforce and how retailers can adapt to this trend?
I think gig today you're seeing it more in the terms of your quick commerce and e-commerce, right? Brick and mortar has not really imbibed it, but I think sooner or later you will have that coming into the brick and mortar retail also. Yeah. Not just from a delivery perspective, but also I think from people who may want to work part-time in the stores. Decathlon does it, right? You have uh, management students who come and work in shifts and earn a bit of money on the side, so their monthly expenses are taken care of. So I think that's in a way a gig economy kind of getting into the retail ecosystem.
Okay.
Well, it's already set into the quick commerce space, but I think it's going to spread. Brand like Lenskart, you need people. While you need good guys who can, good people who can understand what people are looking for from Nai, but then you also need, say, someone with a little more scientific knowledge, if I may use that word, who really understand what kind of lenses work, what kind of frames may look good. If somebody has got certain powers, so you need people who to give you the right kind of advice. So yeah, I think you'll have ophthalmologists also spending part of their time, working with omnichannel brands like Lenskart. So I think gig economy is it. It's going to be gig economy going forward. I think I'm not too, one of the things that I keep focusing on, and when I talk to my students in the classroom, especially the executive MBA, which I teach, and I tell them, hey, I think in 3-4 years or even next 5 years, the 9-to-5 job will really be obsolete, right? So I think gig is the way to go.
Okay. So, sir, what advice do you give to the individuals, the professionals in retail industry, and like to enter into some good company and also get the higher position with a good package, everything what they dream about? what are the advices that you give to that person?
Oh, okay. I don't know if uh, advice, I'm qualified to give advice, but I mean, um, yeah, I think, I think one is you need
Or
to
like
really,
what qualities he needs to focus on?
yeah, I think you need to have the right kind of attitude because retail isn't a detail, right? You need to ensure that you're someone who is quite sharp in noticing a lot of things. Retail is all about customer centricity. Retail is a customer centered business, whichever type of retail, whether it's brick and mortar, e-commerce, quick commerce, or even omnichannel, it's always customer centric. So anybody, right from the sales executive down the line to the CEO, has to be customer centric. I think that's one key quality that you need to have. Two, how quickly can you adapt to change? Number three, you need a lot of empathy, especially HR, because it's a people business. And of course, number four is the kind of effort you put in, how quickly can you learn, and so on and so forth, right? And with a lot of technology be getting involved, getting imbibed into retail today, I think there is a requirement for people to understand technology and possibly also use it. So I think all of this put together really will make sense. And then how do you really approach? If you have connects, please do. Please apply, wherever a retail brand advertises, please apply. Or go to LinkedIn and start connecting and say, hey, you know what, I'm passionate about retail and I want to join. And I'll start off and we'll see how and take it from there, right? So I think this is what I would kind of put on the table for uh, those of listeners out there who possibly may be wanting to take retail as a career.
Okay. The last question for the session, sir. So finally, what does thriving in the retail industry mean to you, both from an employer and an employee perspective?
Uh, well, I'll try and answer it to the best of my knowledge. I think from an employee perspective, I think thriving would mean having the opportunity to grow, be challenged, and feel valued in an environment that's extremely dynamic. Right? Uh, Retail is not the business in retail is not consistent. One day will be phenomenal, the next day it could drop, the third day it could be just about an average day. Yeah, so you need employees who keep themselves you need to be self motivated. And from an employer's perspective, I think you need to create the right kind of culture, foster employee development, and how are you maintaining to be customer centric and using all of this to really stay ahead uh, in the market, because it's enough and more competition for retail today. And I'm not talking only of tier one. Today, retail is spreading to tier two, tier three, tier four.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think across right now, tier two, tier three, tier four is still very nascent, but I think the development also will start being seen there, right? So I think for me, thriving I think I would see it in this from this perspective.
Okay, as you said, sir, I think retail industry is going to grow very huge and go reach to tier two, tier three, tier four cities also in the coming years. I think it is going to decrease the unemployment rate in India. It's a lot of employment opportunities that is actually providing, the tier three, tier four cities also that from tier two. That's what we like about retail and hospitality too. So yeah, it was very good talking to you, sir. It was very informative, and I think people who are wanting to work in retail industry, they'll it is a really good podcast for them, and they'll be more understanding. They'll get a lot of understanding to this. Thank you so much for joining us. Sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and yeah, I hope I have added some value.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You can use, right? And you're right, and you're right. I think retail is. I think if I read somewhere, if I'm not wrong, retail is in India is the second largest employer
Yeah.
as an industry, right? And it is a great. Uh, I think provides a lot of opportunities for people, and hopefully, yes, you're right. Employment can part at least a lot of people actually can find employment in retail.
Yeah. It's just that you need to be hungry enough and
Absolutely.
just focus on skills and start growing in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So with that, we come to the end of a very engaging session with Mr. Jitendranath Patri. And thank you, Darshan, so much. We had a great time talking to you, sir, and also learning and understanding so many things in the session today. We'll be back with yet another industry leader and yet another very interesting topic. So stay tuned, guys. Visit our ArbeitNexus YouTube, Spotify, and the website to know more. And here's us signing off from ArbeitNexus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you so much.